If you want to know how to use this thing that we now call a birth ball and no longer a yoga ball when you become pregnant, make sure that you watch this video because I am going to give you 5 different ways that you can use this birth ball during pregnancy to help your body prepare for labor and use it in labor so that you can stay active and in motion whether you are full of energy or you're starting to get a little bit exhausted. Hey mamas, my name is Chanel. I am a working mama and I'm so happy that you are here getting ready to work your birth. If you are here, it's because you want to be educated and empowered, and that's what I do. I want to help you have an empowered and fearless natural birth. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and follow me on Instagram at awerkingmama so that you can get daily tips and tricks on how to have the birth of your dreams. Now, if you haven't gotten a birth ball yet, please make sure to get one right after you finish watching this video because you can begin to use this the minute you find out that you're pregnant. The first way that you can use it and how you should be utilizing it throughout your pregnancy is just to utilize it as a chair. Sitting on a hard chair is no longer beneficial while we are pregnant because it doesn't encourage our pelvis to be in the optimal position. When we're sitting on the birth ball, it actually allows our pelvis to be in the optimal position, which helps encourage our baby to be in the optimal position in order to be head down, ready for birth, as well as helps us maintain good posture and core strength, which is a good thing if we do it the right way. It will help us understand our breathing, how engaged or not engaged our pelvic floors may be. So just make sure that you utilize this birth ball for more than just exercise. It should now be your primary chair for the remaining parts of your pregnancy. I actually took a birth ball to my office when I was working at a desk job so that I could actually move and utilize some sort of pelvic movement and not sitting on a hard chair throughout my work day. Of course, get up, move around, listen to your body. If you're starting to get tired, switch back to your chair, but then try to come back to your birth ball whenever you can. Now, how do we actually utilize this for motion and activity during pregnancy and during labor so that we can encourage our baby to be in the optimal position during pregnancy and in labor? The first way you can do this is also how you can do it while you're sitting on the birth ball is hip circles. So if you are just sitting on the birth ball, you can just simply move your body around in a circular motion. Now make sure that you are going in both directions because we want to give love to both sides of our pelvis. And depending on what position your baby is in or what side that your baby may be hanging out on, you can give more love to that side because that might even open up a little bit more room to get baby to come into the optimal position. Now, during labor, this is really beneficial, and some mamas don't actually prefer this because it does bring about a lot of pressure. If you haven't seen my video on how to know if you're progressing in labor, make sure you check that out because being on the birth ball is one of those places that our pelvic floors are relaxed, like I mentioned earlier. And we want to go to places that our pelvic floor is naturally relaxed because that allows our body and our baby to make a lot of movement and progression during our contraction. The birth ball and the toilet are the only 2 places that our pelvic floors are naturally relaxed and we don't have to do anything about it to really help or force it to be relaxed. So being on the birth ball, you may feel additional pressure while you are in labor because our pelvic floors are naturally relaxed. So we want to spend a lot of time on here if we can, in addition to those upright movements, because this is going to allow our baby to make a lot of movement and for our labor to be very efficient. So those hip circles, the bigger you can get those hip circles, the more progress we're going to make, okay? So let's make sure that we're going in both directions. In addition to just simply sitting on the birth ball, another simple position or movement that you can do both during pregnancy and during labor while you are contracting is just moving your hips from side to side. Now, what I like to tell mamas to do is just do what's comfortable. Make these exaggerated as much as you can, but just make sure that we're moving because we want to make sure that we keep an active pelvis during pregnancy so that we can have an active pelvis during labor. That's what helps open up our pelvis in the right positions. And when you are in labor, The difference of what it will look like right now if I'm pregnant and doing this and when I'm in labor is that we will want to exaggerate these movements while we are in labor because, again, that makes more room for our baby. Your partner can kind of help guide you through this, can put your hands on your hips, or they can put their hands on your hips, or your doula can put their hands on your hips, and we're going to exaggerate it and bring a little bit of a bounce into it, because if we can bring a little bit of a bounce into this, not only are we going side to side and moving our body in an asymmetrical way that will help our bodies and our babies rotate, but it's also going to use a lot of gravity to help our babies to descend. Now, I wouldn't encourage to do a ton of bouncing during pregnancy. Just simple side to side motions are enough. But when you get into labor, giving a little bit more may actually benefit you. Now, I want to just warn you that, of course, that does mean that there's probably going to be some more pressure, and it's probably going to be a little bit more difficult to do that when you're in active labor, but that's why you can utilize your partner or your doula to kind of really help push your hips from side to side. The next way that we can utilize our birth ball is with a pelvic tilt. Now, a pelvic tilt is really beneficial because if your baby is not in an optimal position, this is another way that you can help encourage baby to get in an optimal position, and it's a way for you to help your baby to descend. When you are sitting on the birth ball, you are just going to simply push back and bring your pelvis forward. Push your pelvis back and bring your pelvis forward. Now, if I turn to the side, you should be able to see the difference in pushing your hips back and bringing them forward and almost tucking your pelvis in. So you're pushing it back and kind of sticking it out and tucking your pelvis in. And this is the pelvic tilt. It's similar to a cat-cow if you're on hands and knees, but you're doing it on a birth ball, which is obviously beneficial because if we're trying to encourage baby to be in an optimal position, cat-cow, pelvic tilts are a good way to do that. But if you're on the birth ball, now you have your pelvic floor being relaxed and baby doesn't have to work so hard to get through those tight pelvic floor muscles. So pelvic tilts are extremely beneficial. You can definitely do these while you're sitting at the office, while you're watching TV, while you're talking, and it doesn't really require that much effort. You can obviously do this if your body feels good while you're in labor as well, because sometimes we may go into labor and our babies may be posterior, which means that baby is sunny side up or back to back with us. So simply doing some of these movements, whether it's on the birth ball or on all fours, will be really beneficial for you and for baby, because babies who are posterior can turn and be anterior by the time you deliver. Another position that we can utilize on the birth ball is hands and knees. What we can do and utilize hands and knees on the birth ball is just simply utilizing this birth ball as a way to kind of relax. One thing I like to tell my mamas is that when they're getting tired, this is an easy way, if your arms start to get tired or your wrists start to get tired, to still stay in a hands and knees position, but just have the birth ball as additional support. So if I'm on the birth ball, I can just rock front to back, or I can rock left to right. Whatever feels good for me. It's really helpful to be in this position because it opens up the outlet of our pelvis, which gives our baby a lot of room to move. And the good thing about this is that you actually don't have to be on the floor. You can bring a birth ball into the bed with you and have a little bit more support under your knees and do these same movements, okay? So understand that the birth ball is kind of like a really cool tool that you can use on the floor while you're pregnant, of course, at home, but then also whenever you get to your birthing environment, you can utilize this on the floor or in the bed as well, even if you have an epidural. My mamas who have gotten epidurals have utilized the birth ball. You will probably need additional support to get into a hands and knees position on the birth ball, but this is going to be the support that you need so that you can utilize movement still while you're in labor with an epidural. Most people don't know that you can still move with an epidural, but hands and knees and utilizing the birth ball or a peanut ball is one really simple way to keep your pelvis moving while you're in labor, which is going to help cut down the time that you're in labor and help give baby more room to actually move into a positive station. The last position that we can utilize, which is extremely beneficial to opening up your pelvis a lot to give your baby a lot of room to move, is a lunge. You can obviously do a lunge on a chair, on a stool, but you can also do a lunge on the birth ball. And this is a really good way to utilize it if you are getting tired in labor, but you still need to move around. If being elevated on a chair or a couch doesn't feel very good, puts a lot of pressure on your knees, you can put a pillow under the knee that's on the ground, a few towels to give you additional support, but you will take one of your legs and you will bring it to the side of the birth ball. Make sure that you have a pretty good distance between the front and the back leg. Lean over the birth ball and then rock forward so that you feel a pretty big stretch right here, and then bring it back. So you'll feel a pretty good stretch in your hamstring. And then during labor, we're going to just move forward and backward during the contraction, okay? We need to make sure that we are utilizing movement. It doesn't have to be super intense, but it can be intentional. And so if you understand the station of your baby, you'll know that lunges are really good when baby's around a 0 station because it helps baby to rotate. And when you have asymmetrical movements like a lunge, meaning your hips are uneven, then it gives your baby a lot more room to move. So while you're pregnant, make sure you're practicing those so that your body is not completely freaked out when you try to put your body in a position like this during a contraction, but make sure you're also switching sides. So maybe doing 2 or 3 lunges on one side during those contractions and then switching and doing 2 or 3 lunges on the other side when you're having those 2 or 3 contractions. That will really help your body move but not take a ton of energy out of you. And as long as you don't have an epidural, you can utilize that in the bed as well. Doing a lunge with the birth ball while you have an epidural probably will be a little bit more difficult, but it's not impossible. It just all depends on how much feeling you have in your legs or what kind of support you have around you so that you can utilize this as best as you can. So make sure you guys get this birth ball. I have linked down below a complete list of the items that I think are helpful for you to have with you during birth, including a birth ball. I've used a 75-inch birth ball, but depending on your height, you can maybe use a 65, or if you're a lot shorter, maybe a 55-inch birth ball. I am 5'6", and 75-inch works perfect for me. So just make sure that you find one that fits best for you. And again, start to utilize this now. I don't care if you're 4 weeks pregnant or if you're 34 weeks pregnant. It is never too late to introduce this into your daily routine. I hope this video was helpful. Make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed it. And again, make sure to subscribe if you want a full childbirth education class on how to utilize the birth ball, how to know the station of your baby, how to know what to do during each station of labor, how to know what to do during the stages of labor, how to understand how to mentally and physically prepare. I got you. It is all laid out, self-paced online course. I have linked it in the description below. You can check that out. You can start at any time. It is going to prepare you and your partner for birth. So, as always, I'm so happy that you're here getting educated. It is going to be the best birth experience that you can have. Trust yourself, trust your body, and I will see you on the next video.